Alright, I got an early start to the day before work, and hopefully I'm going to put some arms on this thing and turn it into a second miter saw station. I'm not going to worry about dust collection with this one because this is not going to be used all the time. It's not the primary miter saw. So I've been doing some cleaning and rearranging and organizing, and the shop's looking real good right now. But the first step in putting these arms on is I've got a lip all the way around the sides, and I'm just going to come in with my flush trim router bit and just cut that off nice and smooth. My arms are actually going to stick up about 3.5 inches because that's how high my saw is, and of course fold down all the way to the ground. Because this is a little bit taller than the last set of arms I put on, or than the cabinet for the last set of arms I built, I've got a full 40 inches. Well, 41, but my arm's going to be 40 from where it starts to where it folds down. So once it's unfolded, I'll have 40 inches, 42 cabinet, and then another 40 inches. So that's going to be a total of 2 inches longer than 10 feet, which is going to be great because the sole purpose of this is cutting up long 2x10s. It's going to be the same setup as before, like I said, except the depth of the ply material is going to be 10 inches all the way around. That leaves me with an 11.5 inch shelf for the arm itself. I've got a SketchUp design this time based on the last set's design, so I'll include this in the description if you want to pick it apart and use it as needed. But anyway, I'm going to get this started and hopefully get a little bit done before I have to start work. So I just started to use the flush trim, and all was going great, and then what the heck happened is what I was thinking. Something just went haywire, and I started going into the table, and turned it off. I came back a couple of times trying to figure out what was going on, like a dummy, and I turned it off, and lo and behold, right on the floor was my bearing and my screw. So that's never happened to me. Kind of freaked me out a little bit, but be careful with these things. Here's the first arm in place, and you can really start to see how much space these arms have left and right, how much support that they have. And also, they're a very deep arm, so this will prove handy for a lot of wider boards like 2x10s and 1x12s and stuff like that. Like before, it's just secured to the cabinet right in the middle, and then with a stop block down on the bottom. In the SketchUp diagram, and also on my first piece, my small arms for the small miter stand, I had a piece that was notched out to accept this piece of plywood. Waste of time. Just put a piece of board right there and that's going to stop it, no problem. I had to do some minor adjustments on my screw location, so that's kind of ugly, but I don't care because it works. Speaking of ugly, some of the scrap that I used was very drilled out. It was used scrap, so function over fashion on this one. I don't really care. And I'm about to finish the second one. I've got the first piece. I've already brad nailed the side banding on, and I'm going to flip it upside down and do the other side banding. My scrap pieces that I start with are very long, so I'm just going to cut it off at 40 inches, wherever that may be. And I'm using my old butcher block, so to say, from the finishing video as a nice support to clamp this to, and it just sits steady on the bench. So just something solid to hold everything together. I'm going to get this other piece put in down at the bottom, flip it upside down, and we'll work on the brackets. One thing else I really wanted to note, when I started this particular panel, this plywood had a good 1-inch bow to it, and it's still got a slight bow, but nowhere near what it had. Just putting this bottom piece on and straightening it up as I use brad nails every inch and a half, a lot of brad nails, but that'll hold it all straight while the glue sets up and will allow me to use some very crappy scraps that otherwise would not have been used. So here's the second arm assembly. This is the mounting bracket where it's going to mount to the case itself. And this particular one is really snug, which I like snug. I'd rather it be really tight and wear loose than be loose and wear off. I found the easiest thing to do when you get this one in place, this mounting bracket, now you're working on your triangle bracket, is to just bring it down like so, and you can see if you are off square, that's what it's going to look like. You need to make sure that, there we go. You need to make sure that your second piece right here is perfectly, your second pivot point is perfectly square and perpendicular to this one. So if you're off just slightly, see if I let go, that's square. If I let go, it wants to exaggerate, because this screw is not screwed in absolutely perfect. But that's okay. Just put it where it needs to be and put another screw in there. Because this one was in there slightly imperfect, it will just bind up a little bit, which I think is actually a good thing, because like I said, it'll be nice and snug. So just make sure this is very perpendicular and square before you screw it in place. With the second arm assembly completely built, we're ready to install. Now we're just screwing right into some 3/8 or 1/2 inch plywood. I'm not exactly sure. So once I get both sides done, I'm going to come in on the inside and brace it with a piece of either solid pine or just a strip of plywood. But anyway, to get this all nice and level, this is the saw that I'm going to be using for this stand, and I've clamped with the built-in clamp. I've clamped down my box beam level to go all the way across, the same way I did on this one. The problem is these arms are 11.5 inches from corner to corner, and I've got one beam to attach to, so this thing may be off level like this. So what I'm going to do is, I have a reference point, which is this outside face frame of the cabinet, and I cut a little spacer strip, and when I installed this side, of course this piece isn't in the way, but I rested this spacer block up against this side of the face frame and used that as a spacing to where I mount my mounting bracket. So I'm going to do the same on this side. Set this in place and put my bracket right next to it, nice and tight, and screw it in place. And here they are, both in their down position. They're both installed. Like I said, I didn't brace the inside yet, so it is a little bit wobbly. But these things offer a lot of surface area, and they're very easy to put up. I don't know if I can get around this thing. They're very easy to put up, but like I said, they're kind of wobbly right now. I've got to get some supports on the insides, and we'll be done. The saw I'm just going to set up on top. I'm not going to screw it down because this is actually 3/4 inches taller than the bed of my DeWalt planer. So I could just set my planer up here, shim the bed up a little bit, or maybe put a bed that sits inside the planer and hopefully get it in line with these two. So it's got room for expansion. It's not necessarily just for the miter saw. But very easy to do. Very easy to get out and then put back. When it's not needed, it doesn't take up a lot of space, but when it is needed, it is very handy to have all that space. Alright, to really add some strength here, my top is just a piece of 5/8 OSB, and what I did is I pre-drilled this hole about 1 inch deep, and I used a 2.5 inch Kreg screw from this bracket all the way into this tabletop surface. And that adds a lot of increased strength, because what this does is, as the weight goes down here, it acts as a fulcrum to pull this way out. So this initial brace, this screw in here, will brace this tremendously, and it already has. I still got a little bit of give right at the end, but you know, it's not supported too much, and if my board's going to be way out there, I can hold down over here and still pivot, and it'll be fine, really. But the rest of my give, I don't know if you can see it, is right where my diagonal attaches to the cabinet, and the whole piece is bowing in this plywood side. So with that, what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to come through the middle on the back side and just put a hardwood runner all the way down here to stop it from deflecting in so much. For the interior bracing, I just ran a vertical piece of poplar from bottom to top in roughly the center section of the arm. I ran a 2.5-inch screw through on this side all the way out, and then again on top. And with the 2.5-inch screw sticking out, I knew that I could just connect the dots in between the 2.5-inch screws from this side with 1.25-inch drywall screws. Once I did that, then I removed the 2.5-inch screws, and I'm left with this. It's very sturdy. It's very solid. It's like a rock now, so I'm happy with that. I may, just because I don't like the looks of this, I may come in here with a triangular piece of stock going that direction, screw it to the tabletop, screw it to the bottom, screw it in here, something like that. But as of right now, I've got those vertical pieces on bottom, both sides, and I am very happy. This took about, I don't know, about 2 hours time, and I've got a lot of surface here. This support, let me take it down. The support, safety glasses, doesn't really shut all the way, doesn't line up. I can force it, but there's no need to. Doesn't line up, my fault, no big deal. And this side, you gotta lift this thing up like an inch, inch and a half. Like an inch or inch and a half to get it to go down, so I don't see any problem bumping into it and knocking it down. But there they are. I love this design. It all folds in place. You don't see anything. It's all concealed. It's out of the way. Not a big fan of it sticking up above the surface because I could take this off and use it for other things. But, you know, the trade-off, it's worth it for me. So, very happy. Very satisfied. I'll put a link below to my SketchUp page/file if you want to download these arms. If not, you know, just look at the design and make your own. It's really simple. So, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.